The 2025 NFL Draft is loaded with some elite running back talent. There are multiple running backs who could realistically hear their name called in the first round of the class, which is pretty surprising at this point in the modern NFL. But there's also some really interesting depth down the board. There seems to be a pretty consensus top 3 in the class, but after that, there is a little bit of a gap, and that is where today's profile lands. Omarion Hampton had an awesome season for North Carolina last year. He was one of the nation's top rushers, and today we're going to be talking about what he does well and areas that he could potentially be improving upon as a prospect. But hey guys, if you guys are new to the channel, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon, which is linked down in the description below. For $5 a month, you guys will get exclusive access to my draft guide, player evaluations, prospect interviews, and much more. If you want to get a head start on the 2025 NFL Draft class, I highly recommend checking it out. Leave a comment and let me know which players you guys want to see me talk about in a future episode. And without further ado, let's take a closer look at Omarion Hampton. Omarion Hampton really came out of nowhere in the 2023 college football season, and he really made a statement as one of the top running backs in college football. On 254 carries, Hampton finished with 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns. He also added 29 receptions for 222 yards, and he was a top 10 leader in the FBS in terms of rushing yards. Now, with Drakemaye headed to the NFL, North Carolina is expected to lean heavily into their run game, and I think we could see some big things from Hampton this upcoming season. Hampton has a really solid build for the running back spot. He is 6 foot, 220 pounds, and he does have a great build for the modern running back. He has a big frame, and he uses it to run defenders over and stay on his feet. Hampton's contact balance is his best trait. He was elite after first contact, and he had some explosive long plays that came as a result. Of his 1,500 yards, 1,072 of them came after contact, and that breaks down to 4.22 yards after contact per carry, which is remarkable. That is a skill that is going to translate incredibly well to the next level. Another area in which Hampton's size does him favors is his pass blocking. He shows the ability to be a 3-down back because of his ability to stand in and protect the quarterback. He showed a pretty strong base, and he held up in one-on-one blocking assignments, which I really like to see from him. Hampton also shows great vision from the running back position. He sees the holes open up, and he's able to hit them. While he may not have the quickest first step, if he finds a hole, he has really good long speed in the open field and does an awesome job of watching how plays develop and hitting that hole with anticipation. He also does a very nice job of getting skinny between defenders and fitting through the most narrow zones and turning them into big plays, which you really love to see from running backs. Hampton isn't a perfect prospect, and he has some issues in his game that do concern me a little bit. For one, he wasn't super quick. He showed some solid explosiveness at times, but it was incredibly inconsistent. Particularly his long speed is what worries me. He shows some potential, but his speed as a whole feels very up and down, and I think that's going to need to improve from him. But my biggest issue with Hampton, it isn't his speed, it's his shiftiness. Typically you want to see running backs who have the ability to juke guys out, or they have some nice cutbacks, or something in their game that they can use to make defenders miss, and outside of his power, Hampton really didn't display any wiggle. He would sometimes get caught on his feet, and he wasn't super explosive when trying to make a move. That's an area he's really going to need to add to his game, because I think it could lead to him getting tackled more often in the backfield if the hole isn't there and he needs to juke guys out. He just doesn't have the ability to do that in his game. The final area with Hampton that was inconsistent was his receiving. I think he has it in there though. He had 29 receptions and 0 drops in 2023, but he really wasn't utilized much as a route runner out of the backfield. He averaged less than a yard per route run, and I want to see him be more of a focal point in the receiving game. He definitely has the ability to do that, but we just haven't seen it yet in his collegiate career, and that's something he needs to add. Hampton has some really great potential as a runner. He has solid vision, he has some of the best balance of any running back in this draft class, and and he flashes some really great long speed. All of those tools will translate great to the next level. However, there are some major concerns in his game, and how he will be utilized as a receiving back, his shiftiness in the open field, and can he be consistent with his long speed. The flashes are there, but it's nothing that is regular for him. For those reasons, I think I'm a little bit lower on Omarion Hampton than the consensus, and he comes in as my running back 7 for the 2025 NFL Draft. He's a great player and more than likely would have been my running back 1 last year. He's very similar to Trey Benson as a prospect, and Hampton does grade out as a top 100 player in the draft class for me. A majority of Hampton's runs came in a heavy zone rushing scheme, and I think that's exactly where he will fit. He can run inside or outside, and he can flash some of that breakaway speed. I think at the NFL level, he is a perfect fit for the heavy zone rushing attack that the NFL is looking for, and he will fit seamlessly at the next level in that scheme. My player comparison for Omarion Hampton is Houston Texans running back Joe Mixon. Mixon and Hampton have very similar skill sets, and that they have good speed, but not great speed, and neither are the most shifty nor the most explosive. On top of that, Mixon doesn't have a lot of receiving traits in his game, and that's been a deal breaker for him in Cincinnati in his career, and part of what held that team back. Mixon has still been a very reliable running back in his career, and both of them have great vision and they have great contact balance. And I think Hampton will have a very good career in the NFL. Omarion Hampton is the next Joe Mixon. He has great vision, he has elite contact balance, and he is a player who moves incredibly well. If he adds some more explosiveness to his game and he can be a little bit more shifty, he is going to be an absolute nuisance for NFL defenders to work with. And if he does that, he will get picked higher. But ultimately, I believe that Omarion Hampton will be a day 2 pick in the 2025 NFL Draft.